Hello, innovators. I'm Todd Wyant, and welcome to the Bridging the Gap podcast presented by Applied Software Great Tech Group. You're invited to join our conversation to model the future of construction innovation and the digital transformation of this great industry. My guest today is Scott Cannon. He's the CEO of Big Rents, a leading online equipment rental marketplace that revolutionizes how construction companies access heavy machinery. With over 2 decades of experience in executive leadership roles, Scott is known for his strategic vision and commitment to driving innovation in the construction industry. Under his leadership, Big Rents has become a pioneer in leveraging technology to streamline logistics and improve efficiency in construction operations. Scott's deep understanding of industry challenges and his passion for digital transformation make him a voice in shaping the future of construction. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Thanks, Todd. Appreciate being here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it. So how did you get into this industry called construction?
It found me. I didn't find it. I don't think anybody grows up and says, I want to be in either logistics or construction. It's either the family business or you kind of just roll into it accidentally. Big Rents is a software platform that simplifies construction rental equipment and services procurement. We centralize suppliers and vendors, streamline rentals, and ensure a consistent process across the board. The vision of the company was to revolutionize construction procurement by having a holistic job site view of construction equipment, materials, and trades, but it sort of evolved. It started as the functional value was really buying power for small contractors that couldn't get national rates through the big guys. And it's a traditionally underserved market, and it basically grew from there to a logistics platform and a Big Rents Plus service that really consolidates vendors. So you have a one-stop shop, a consistent experience across the board. And then our future state is a state where we take those tools that we built to provide to large contractors to self-manage and to really manage their vendor management. I came into it through a private equity company I had a relationship with, and I was in the logistics space, so a lot of similarities to this business.
So, construction often gets criticized for inefficiencies, relying on outdated processes. From your perspective, what are some of the key reasons that maybe these old methods are persisting, and what challenges do companies face in moving away from there when needed?
I think one of the primary reasons and one of the things that attracts companies like Big Rents to this space is it's a heavily fragmented space. Construction and construction materials, thousands of companies, small companies across the board, thousands throughout the United States. And they may lack the resources and the commitment to adopt new technologies. There's a strong reliance on sort of tried and true methods where, I've done it for this way for 20 years. It's going to work going forward. I'm going to continue to do it this way. The industry itself is not a very profitable space. It's usually typical single-digit EBITDA numbers. I think it's 50% of contractors within the first 5 years are out of business. Only 20% make it to year 20. And so if you're going to make an investment, it makes a lot of sense to invest it with something you understand, and it's maybe not new and you can't see the immediate effect of it. I think probably that's really one of the main reasons why people are slow to adopt.
Yeah. I mean, change is hard for sure, especially when you are operating on razor thin margins, like you mentioned. How do you then motivate companies and individuals who maybe want to innovate and change things up, but for whatever reason they're more sitting on the sidelines with embracing new technologies and processes? How do you bring them into the fold?
Well, there's definitely, you got to get past the resistance to change and the lack of digital skills. So a lot of education, you have to work through multiple stakeholders typically, because construction projects may have people on the project that have different agendas. Being able to show them data and bring them real information that shows them how they can save money or how they can be more efficient. I think it's like an average, I saw a study recently, 35% of the work week in construction is on non-optimal activities. So finding where that piece of equipment is, tracking down a supplier that didn't show up or a trade that didn't show up, where's my materials, sort of lining those up is relatively inefficient. And 90% of construction projects are planned. So it's about having all the three things line up simultaneously when they're supposed to, not early, not late. And that inefficiency last year cost the construction industry roughly $177 billion. So by demonstrating the cost and the benefits, I think is really the only way to get people to convert.
Yeah. So you brought up data there. How do you get all the data aligned and front and center to be able to really paint that picture clearly?
Well, for us, because we've been in the business for 10 years and we spent a lot of money accumulating information over the years, we use spatial analysis and AI and a neural network, and we use them in certain ways. We understand the relationship between a job site and the location where the materials or equipment or people are coming from, because that increases the cost. And then we have propensity models that look at a variety of factors, utilization rates, performance of individual vendors, their propensity to change on a project, either cost or service, or to have service disruptions. And we use all of that in our calculation to determine who the right provider is that we should use. And I think that's the way to go about it.
Yeah, interesting. So you brought up a buzzword here that I want to double click on. We made it 7 minutes in before AI got brought up, so that's pretty good. AI buzzword extraordinaire. I feel like it's the word of the year. How do you see AI shaping the future of construction, and what's exciting, what's maybe promising about AI and the impact that it can make?
So I think the thing with AI is people's imaginations can run wild. And there's all kinds of great things and cool things that we're going to see in the future. But I think to kind of relieve people that are in the industry, I think it was Goldman Sachs said there's roughly 6% of jobs in construction would be displaced by AI, and only 4% in facilities and maintenance. So I think it's, you juxtapose that to a retail sector where 65% of jobs are likely to be replaced with AI. So I think AI, for a construction standpoint, is a tool, maybe not a disruptor where it's going to take jobs away. Still have to have manual people, do the plumbing and the electricians, and there's a place for AI here. It has the potential to revolutionize the space through predictive analytics, which can help anticipate project delays, optimize resource allocation, improve safety. I think all those things are the kind of the real practical things in construction. There'll be autonomous vehicles, where it's not safe for people to do the work, or it's repetitive long-term, where it's not value add having people do it. But I see AI as a benefit where in an industry where it lags productivity gains compared to others, and it should be something we all embrace.
Yeah, more than agree. I love that you said it's a more tool than disruptor. I totally agree with that, with where AI is in construction right now, that it's replacing the mundane task, but construction still and always will remain a human industry. It takes people. It's a requirement. You're never going to get around that, and AI just helps make those people more efficient. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
I argue construction is a space where if you're a young person, you should gravitate to the space. It's something you should embrace. It's job security. These are skills that cannot be replaced by a machine. Whereas many other industries and things that we all grew up being told to go learn are and will.
Yeah. So totally, you're hitting on a soapbox thing. So I won't get on a soapbox too much there. But so why then? I agree. Construction, great opportunity for young people. Why is that message not getting out? If you go culturally outside of people that have any familiarity with construction, it's not on their radar. How do we get that message out there to people to come into the industry?
Getting adoption is always a hard thing to do. It's crucial to focus on the tangible benefits, cost savings, efficiency gains, competitive advantage. Those things translate all industries. And as an owner, construction firm, or contractor, those should resonate irrespective of the how, and it's AI. I think it's more not just about adopting tools, but staying competitive in an industry. that's always increasingly leaning towards data-driven decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And as generationally, as the second or third generation of these businesses come through, they're more apt to embrace technology because they grew up learning it from the get-go. I mean, this is kind of a silly example, but my son at home playing his Xbox, when there's 6, 7 different buttons on that thing, and I grew up with an Atari with a stick and a button, and they're just used to it, and it's just familiar. And my children use AI in they're not supposed to, but they use AI in their education, and use it as a resource. It's just embraced. So like as we
Mm-hmm.
get older, that next generation is they're going to adopt it either way. So in order to remain competitive, people really do need to embrace it.
Yeah, love that. What innovative approaches do you see really being more or the most effective in really better connecting the staff with labor and services?
Well, I see it because we live it on the procurement side. There was a McKinsey study that said 40 to 70% of construction is procurement related. I mentioned earlier, productivity sort of lags other industries. If you look at productivity in construction, for the last 2 decades has grown about 1% per year, whereas the entire economy has grown between 2 and 2.5% per year. And when you're in a business that runs on razor thin margins, the only way to basically get profitability, particularly when you're in materials, there's inflation and other things, is through productivity. We use these tools to help companies have to not hire as many financial estimators and reduce your procurement burden. Use these tools they're less expensive, provide just as much information, and can render a decision that's based on data, as opposed to I like the guy who shows up because he brings me donuts or he takes me to a ball game. It really comes down to what's the best thing for the company and to maximize that across the board.
Yeah, interesting. So I want to dive into your logistics background and kind of the similarities between logistics and construction. How has the kind of transformation of logistics really been impacting construction?
Well, I think the transformation of logistics is having an impact by improving efficiency and reliability of material and equipment delivery. That's number one. It
Mm-hmm.
reduces downtime, sort of keeps projects on time. There's been advancements in telematics. If you look at a lot of the features of where's my piece of equipment, where's that thing, and is it operating when it's supposed to? Am I even using it? And can I take it off job site? Advances in telematics, AI-driven logistics management, integration of supply chain data with construction platforms is particularly beneficial. This allows for better planning, coordination, reducing the risk of delays by logistical issues. We tackle it. We've grown our network to over 14,000 locations and 6,000 suppliers in our network. We can touch 90% of the U.S. population in a 30-minute drive, and 98 within an hour. And I think that saturation of network really allows us to handle logistics. A typical customer for us is a traveling contractor. They may use 100 different rental companies over a year because they go to everywhere you can think in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Managing that logistics and having a logistics background has really been beneficial to building our Big Rents Plus platform, and really allowing us to allow companies to consolidate their suppliers.
Yeah, interesting. What can construction still learn from logistics?
Efficiency is really what logistics is about. It's about delivering it, getting something where you need it when you need it there, and doing it in the most efficient, cost-effective way. My background prior to here was I worked for a company that eventually sold to UPS, and it was an international logistics company. And a lot of the benefit of the way we set our network up and how we drove those processes is how we do it here at Big Rents, and we're applying it at construction. They're really not divergent. They're not different industries. Construction is, if you think of what a contractor has to go through and all the things they have to juggle, they have some of the most business acumen of any industry that there is. So, in my humble opinion, there's not a lot to teach. It's maybe to point out or to emphasize and provide value.
Yeah, I agree with that point. I think that the construction industry is built up of the greatest creative problem solvers there is. That's the job of construction is you get a new hurdle every single day on the job site and you got to figure out how to make it work and get around it. So the kind of thinking outside the box and how to make something happen and getting it done is just
And
kind of built
juggle
into the
cash
DNA.
flow.
Yeah.
Juggling the cash flow of running a construction company is they're the biggest problem solvers. You have the general contractor may not pay their bill on time, even though you have your application for payment, and then you have the materials and the equipment and your trades all demanding payment at the same time, and then you have multiple of these projects everywhere to basically land that plane and make sure you're allocating your resources correctly and you're doing it as efficient as possible and trying to keep all these different parties happy at the same time. It absolutely is an amazing industry. And I think other industries can learn from construction. It's a vital to our space. I mean, we build things that people love in where they live and functional things. An amazing space and industry to be part of.
No doubt. No doubt. So kind of circling back to the digital transformation aspect of it with construction, how do you approach that conversation with somebody that's, whether they're reluctant or they are curious about how to go through the digital transformation in construction? What are some of the key arguments to convince a stakeholder that now's the time, let's go do it?
I don't think that conversation ever gets easier. So it's one of these things like I know because I can see the data, I have the tools, and I get other people to see that. And I think a lot of it comes down to building trust, performing the way you're supposed to, delivering on the results you commit to, and get into the opportunity where you can accumulate enough data about the company's projects and or the way they do business so that you can translate it into a way that they actually need to see it. There are many companies that we've done business with where we started relatively small, and they use Excel spreadsheets and some tool that somebody created 15 years ago. And they're like, I have a better model than that, and I want to share it with you. And they're like, no, we got it. It works. And when you get the data, and we have a business intelligence team that can crank that data and turn it around like in an hour and show you where you can actually save 10 to 15%, which is typically a switching cost in a B2B sort of environment. That's powerful. And then they can tangibly see it down to the job site level. That's the only way you really convince somebody. Because at the end of the day, you're really going to save me money, or is it yet just one more tool in a never-ending list of software applications that don't talk to each other, that don't have interoperability? And that doesn't help anybody, and it hurts us all because it erodes our confidence when we go to sell more products.
Right. Yeah, you're hitting on so many soapbox issues. I'm trying to pick and choose which ones I go on. Interoperability, I love that rant too. But so once the new technology and processes are adopted, okay, how can construction companies really effectively measure their impact? What kind of key performance indicators should they be focused on to assess the benefits of all these new innovations, kind of zeroing in on that data?
So some of the KPIs that we're obviously very focused on is on-time performance, the estimate versus actual, because there's always stuff happens on construction sites. Things always come up. There's always cost overruns. Look at the performance of with Big Rents. What we do is we have a score that looks at not just our customers' success, but our customers' success. So we sort of take out the elements we can control and the elements where our customers maybe made decisions where it didn't make sense, and then what does it look like from the ultimate customers, the end customers' view of the entire thing. And I think if you look at it from that perspective, it's one step below or deeper than just looking at the transactional relationship between two companies. And if we're all sort of aligned on the same picture of making the success of the end customer, it could be a general contractor, it could be the federal government on an Air Force base, doesn't matter, that they viewed it as a success. And there could be a variety of metrics in there. I think that's really the way to approach a relationship.
So how do you get that alignment on not only the leadership and management level, but kind of all the way through all the different stakeholders on all those different layers? How do you create that alignment so that it's clear this is our North Star, we got it or we didn't get it?
Well, I think you just alluded to it. It's about getting a North Star and understand and doing enough conversations with all different stakeholders to understand the value stream map of how different things affect different people? And then is there an 80-20 rule where 80% or like one thing can satisfy 80% of the people, because you're never going to make everybody happy. Not everybody's going to be aligned. And some people are going to have to be dragged, kicking and screaming to basically do it. But it's about
That
once you
never
get that,
happens.
and that, of course, right? It's easy. It's just easy. You just sign somebody up, and they implement it like tomorrow, and it's like, what are we here for? I could be on vacation right now.
That's right. That easy button, you just push it. Isn't that how technology works?
Supposed to.
So kind of going on the collaboration aspect of it and creating that alignment as a tech provider, how do you like to really bring innovation into that collaborative space between all the different stakeholders?
At the end of the day, it's about relationships first. I mean, the technology is great, but you don't get in the door if you can't establish a relationship and you can't relate to people. So I think that's where the entire process starts, is understanding who you're talking to, their business, what they're trying to achieve. Can you relate to them? Can you give examples that are tangible? Can you talk to them on a human element? That's more important than necessarily just bringing in, here's all my product features and benefits. And a lot of sales is kind of, hey, there's a product, there's a benefit, go take it. You have to have people have to want to do it, and they have to understand it, have to buy in. And it almost needs to become people's ideas. So like, I got this great idea, I can use this software. Well, a lot of identification of customers' problems and let them solve the problem for you. So, I always called it spin training, in old sales technique, is you get in there, customer will tell you how to solve the problem and tell you how your solution solves their problem if you just shut up and listen. And that's 90% of it. Ask good questions and sit back and let people talk.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the key to that then becomes really checking your ego, so that you don't have to be the one that comes up with everything, or at least vocalizes it. It's okay to create the space where other people are sharing their ideas and their concepts, and talking and bringing those to the forefront.
And I tell you, we've been humbled, the company and myself. I mean, you attack an industry that's heavily fragmented. It looks disruptible. And in other industries, things apply, and you're like, well, it worked there, it should work here. And nothing's as foolish as that belief, because it's so complex. This is where people who aren't in construction just can't relate, because they say, what's the big deal? You got a hammer over there, you're building something. It is the most complicated industry, bar none. And if you distill it down to like rental, just having a day, week, 4-week algorithm, and that it's not always consistent across the board. 40% of the cost of a piece of equipment is transportation. So where is it coming from and where is it going to? How do I get it here on time? Is it the right machine do I need? How do I know it's the right machine? Is it going to work on this job? What if it fails? How do I basically fix this? There's like so many different dynamics just in the little slither of rental. And you take it all the way out across the board. It is massively complex. And I think the thing to do when you approach a space like that is not come in thinking you're going to disrupt it. It's coming in and listening and trying to understand how I can add value. And do I add value? And if there are places where we do that, that's great. And we do those things, or we don't do them. There's no sense to create a perfect easy button if nobody's going to use it or it doesn't add value.
Yeah. Wise words. So looking ahead, take out your crystal ball here. What do you believe will be one of the most kind of significant, impactful changes into the construction industry over the next decade?
So looking at narrowly in the space that I understand the best is procurement software. I think the software is going to get dramatically better over time. One of the things that we're doing from Big Rent standpoint, I alluded to earlier, is we've taken the tools that we've developed internally and done 500,000 rentals on our existing platform. We're going to take those and give them to customers so they can do it themselves. We call it SiteStack. And it's a procurement platform that allows a supplier to self-manage their own vendors and use the same tools of spatial awareness and propensity models to render the right person to do that job. And because of the way we built the software, we're able to actually add trades and materials, so you get a whole view of the of the job site from a holistic standpoint. Nobody has done that. And because rental is really complicated and it's not easy. So a lot of the bigger procurement platforms have not really addressed that element. And that's a $60 billion space just in the United States. And we're going to use dynamic pricing so that Big Rents shows up there. It'll be a multi-tenant platform. So it evolves and learns. And these are things that can be shared across the board. So a small contractor sort of levels the playing field with a large contractor because they have the same tools and you can look at it from the same perspective.
Very nice. So as we kind of start to land the plane of the conversation, a couple of rapid fire questions for you. First, what is the phrase modeling the future? What does that kind of bring up imagery in your head? What does that look like to you?
I don't know if that's a rapid fire. Modeling. So I tend to overthink. I'm an overthinker. So modeling for me is to think of every iteration possible and try to have an answer for that and try to address it. And it's a loop that never ends. And so modeling is not a static process. It's an evolving process. And it's about learning and relearning and trying and trial and error. And it's the way my brain works, and it's the way that a successful company should look at it too, because we always need to improve.
Yeah, nice. Okay, maybe a correlating question then. What does innovation mean to you?
Adding value, where something transformative. So innovation is not just about having a good idea or a new technology. It's does the pendulum shift in the way that business is done? That's true innovation.
How do people find out more information and connect with you?
Well, you can go on bigrents.com and to tell you everything you want to know about the company, or reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn all the time. Big Rents is we're the best kept secret in the construction space, and we're obviously trying to get out and tell people more about all the good things we've built. But it's not just me, so that we're very clear there. I have a fantastic team. We have some incredible engineers that have spent now almost a decade in construction to really understand what we're trying to build. And we have iterated so many times in terms of trying to get to the point earlier about innovation. It's about getting something that changes the way people can do business for the better. And that's really what we're focused on.
Love it. Well, final question for you. If I could give you all power, you could snap your fingers and innovate one thing in construction, what would you pick to innovate?
I would just make the process easy so that any contractor could basically know their trade information, their supplier information, their equipment and materials all at their fingertips anytime they need it. So they could basically be responsive to an incoming quote. They would be able to handle their customer service better. It would all be integrated through the entire supply chain. It's fragmented. If you look at construction, you have thousands of contractors, thousands of rental companies, thousands of material companies, and in the systems that they use to manage all those, there's hundreds of ERPs and everything, and it's a big web. And none of it is like a consistent platform across the board, and it's not integrated. So if I could snap a finger, use sort of the Avengers guy with all the different things on his finger. I forget what it's called.
Go Thanos style. Yep.
Thanos style. If I could snap a finger, then it would all integrate tomorrow and be a seamless process and experience for everybody.
I avoided that soapbox of interoperability, and then you brought it around. So well done. The interoperability finger snap. I support. I like that. It's a great way to end it. Scott, thanks so much for taking the time and joining the show today.
Todd, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.